What's up, everybody? Dr. Trevor Wilkins here, the Angry Viking Therapist. And I've been doing a little traveling. This is not the new office. You can see I'm doing the hotel thing. I've been having the honor to go and speak at a lot of different places about PTSD, trauma, adults with childhood trauma, all my specialties. And what was on my mind today to share with you was that trauma becomes the filter for everything. Whether we're talking early childhood trauma, neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse, or more recent trauma, things that you've seen, things that you've dealt with, things that maybe you've experienced within your family, whether it's in the past or whether it's just shortly in the past, it becomes the filter for everything. It becomes the filter for what we see today, how we interpret things today, and our expectations for the future. So not only does it mess up now, not only does it mess up the way that we see things now, the way that we blow things out of proportion now, the way that we overreact with emotions now, it becomes our expectations of it never going well in the future. Think of it in that way with relationships. Doesn't it make a lot of sense that if you never learned how to have relationships in the past, whether by abuse or absentee parents or whatever the case may be, or somewhere between childhood and now, you've been abused or molested or physically assaulted or traumatized in some way, physically or emotionally, doesn't it make sense that not only is that the problem now, but you don't expect it to get better in the future? We've talked many times on this channel about why the brain does what it does, why the limbic system always goes into alert mode when those traumas pop up. Now, the thing to know about traumas is that it doesn't just put it away as the story. Traumas get put away in the brain as an entire box. It gets put away with the sights and the sounds and the beliefs and the smells and what you're wearing and what time of year it was and where you were and what was going on in life and what the weather was like. Now, it only takes a small piece of something out of that box to reactivate that trauma. You don't have to be thinking about the whole thing all over again. That's what a trigger is. It triggers something out of that box, something out of that memory that was taken by the hippocampus, put into the amygdala and said, hey, this was terrible, watch out for this again. That's our smoke alarm. Once the smoke alarm goes off, that reptile brain kicks in and it's all fight or flight from there. There's nothing in between. It's all the way off or all the way on. We've talked about that before on this channel. So doesn't it make sense that it filters the way that we see things today? Out in front of me is a big, beautiful lake in the state that I'm at right now doing a conference, speaking at a conference at. And if I just see a lake right now. I just see a lake, a little cold to be doing anything with right now here in February, but I see a pretty nice, big bunch of water that could have activities on it, or I could go hiking around, or if it were warm enough, could go swimming in, bring the kids to. But what if you've had a trauma in a lake? What if you've had a trauma in a big body of water like this, especially when it's kind of surrounded by mountains and pristine in the way this one looks? Well, your interpretation of what this body of water means is different than mine. Now, that doesn't mean it's overcomable, and it doesn't mean that we're going to use it as an excuse to not get better. But it becomes the filter for today. Not only that, but now that trauma has made me or helped me determine that it'll never get better in the future. I'll never get to go in the water again. I'll never get to be around activities like that. That's a pretty simple example, but it's one that's literally staring at me from outside the window that I'm speaking at. But what if it's even worse than that? What if it's more severe? What if it's something that happened to you as a child? Something that happened to you as a young adult? Something that happened to you just recently? I think we can all kind of wrap our mind around the fact that it becomes that filter for today. But what about our expectations of the future? Here's the problem with things like anxiety or depression that become because of trauma. They're already there. They don't need your help, folks. They don't need you habitually constructing anxiety and depression. They don't need you consistently having these automatic thoughts that you have to make anxiety or depression work. They're already there, folks. They're already the filter. They don't need your help making it exponentially worse. They don't need your help in constructing it. Anxiety and depression, PTSD can do just fine on their own. So you're going to have to change your filter. Now, you can't change that something happened in a body of water. You can't change the fact that something happened to you when you were younger. But what you can change is what it means about you today. And I'm telling you now, without doubt, that the reason most of those traumas stick is because you believe that it means something about you. It has left you feeling helpless or hopeless or not good enough. Think of it in terms of public safety. Most people, most civilians see 1.5 to 2 critical events in their life. Public safety members see 750 to 800 in a career. What that tells me is it's not the event. Because if it was the event, they'd quit on day 3. It's the interpretation of that event. Now, it doesn't mean I get to nonchalantly make bad things into good things. We're not talking silly talk. We're not saying everything should just be positive and happy. But here's what I do know. If it left you feeling helpless or hopeless or not good enough, that's the trauma that sticks. That's the one that gets stuck on that right side of the brain. That's the one that gets stuck on that sensory overload side. That's the one that keeps triggering problems. You're going to have to get help with that. Help with things like EMDR therapy to deal with the trauma, things like mindset and Stoic Philosophy and rational motor behavior therapy to fix the filter. If that's something you need, if this is speaking to you, go to my website. There it is right there, theangryvikingtherapist.com. If I'm not the fit for you, I'll help you find somebody that is. I may not be the fit for everybody, but I can tell you this. With my trauma specialty and with my trauma healing experience and my own traumas that led me to doing this today, I'll never tell people I know what they're going through, but what I can tell you is I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning in that body of water out there and you got one nostril above the water. And I don't mean that physically, it's metaphorically. Anybody that feels overwhelmed by trauma knows what that feels like. You need to get help with it. This is a brain science problem, folks. This is not a something we made up. This is not a just make yourself feel better. This is brain science. This is trauma. Get the help that you need. If I'm the fit for you, I'll be glad to do it. Trauma makes the past present. Trauma becomes the filter for today and our expectations for the future.